So hello everyone. Today Biassa brings very special guests and partners. They're bringing first-hand knowledge on the education sector in Brazil. Itamar and Clara, we would like to welcome you on behalf of Biassa. I'm Carlos, and today with me we have my partner, Rafael. And when I first saw your presentation last week, I was amazed by the insights you came up with in your research. But before we proceed with questions, I'd like you to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about Coviva and what you do, and about our collaboration as well. So welcome, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Hello, thank you guys for inviting us for doing this webinar. We are really happy for collaborating with you guys, and we hope that the information that we are going to share today is valuable to many companies in Denmark.
Hi guys, my name is Tamar. We'd like to thank you all as well for the opportunity to share this knowledge. And
Sure.
We are very excited about sharing this information, this market research we have done last year. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so going to pass the slide. So today we have this agenda. We are going to just explain what's our company, Coviva, and then we are going to give an overview about the universities in Brazil, how are the difference between public and private universities. We are going to share some insights that we collected from our research and the profile of the Brazilian students. Then we are going to talk a little bit about Science Without Borders and opportunities for Danish universities in Brazil. We are going to share with you guys a Dutch case with one of our clients, what we have been doing for them over here in Brazil. And then we are going to open for questions. So if we start, I'm going just to explain what's my company, Coviva. We are a consultancy. We do business innovation, and we have two main services, research and consultancy.
You guys work with a very interesting concept of innovation within education, right? It's like co-creation. And can you explain a little bit about it? Because I think it's a very interesting concept, which I haven't heard before, meeting you guys, and would be interesting if you could mention that also.
Yes, of course. So we are specialized in co-creation. That I would say that is the new game that companies are playing with society. So we help companies to do business with people and not just for people. And so we understand our market in a different way, using different methodologies. We are going to talk a little bit about this further in this presentation. So we understand marketing as a network, and we understand how a company can relate to this network and build a long-term relationship that is relevant for both sides. So this is what we call co-creation. We learned about this in Europe. We did a master about business innovation in the co-creation perspective in the Netherlands. And when we returned to Brazil, we started working with this and helping European companies to approach Brazilian markets in this different way.
Just to add to what Clara is saying, what really brings out co-creation in comparing to what more traditional companies do is this more collaborative approach we do it. We invite the companies, we invite the clients to design the solutions together with us. So it's more of a collaborative approach that we design the solutions in a more sustainable way. For instance, the idea is that the clients and the company or the organization we work with will be able to continue the projects and carry on the solutions we have designed together by themselves after we leave the company. This way it's sustainable, it's more assertive as well, and that's what co-creation is all about, really bringing solutions together with people and making the companies stronger and more sustainable as well.
Exactly. So instead of being a normal consultancy company that brings solutions from the outside the company, we actually empower the company to find solutions within their employees, and it's much more sustainable, empowering, and they are, I don't know, in a way, learning and transforming themselves during the process. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about this overview of public and private universities in Brazil. So in Brazil, 77% of our students, they are in private universities, and just 23% they are in public universities. So paying for a higher education in Brazil is an expected situation for Brazilians. So it's really common to save money and to pay installments university to study over here.
I think this is already very insightful because I mean we live in Denmark, right? And nobody there studies in a private university except for very specialized courses. When you have like things such as MBAs, as we spoke on Friday, you want to do some specialization after your master's degree, or you go into a finance course, or I mean, you can find thousands of these courses. But the university itself, it's public, and everybody has access to this sort of system. At least in Denmark, I believe in Europe, this is very common as well.
Just to give you another example, the Brazilian education system, it's very similar to the American education system, for instance. You have the private universities and you have the public universities. In the private sector, you have very good universities that many people want to go, and they are very expensive, but you don't have good ones as well. So you have to, you really have to choose carefully, and the universities are well known for its expertise and the brands they build along the years. And this occurs with the public universities as well. In general, in Brazil, most of the public universities, they have a very good quality, with the resource, the teachers, and many people want to go there. But the demand is higher than, what they can offer. Very few public universities, and most of the people cannot get in because simply there is enough space for them. So as a result, most people need to pay for the education, and then that's the reason we have these markets divided by private and public university in the country.
Perfect.
Do you think this is something that will continue to grow in Brazil? I mean, what is the future perspective? But what we're looking now is just a screenshot of the situation right now in Brazil. I believe at some point the public universities were the great majority in comparison to private universities, but this has changed over time. So do you see this trend continue in the future as well?
From what we feel, yes, I think there is a huge market to grow. If you compare the Netherlands, for instance, where more than 30% of the population have access to higher education, and Brazil, where we don't even reach 11%, and there is still a big market to go. There are a lot of people in Brazil who still don't have access to higher education, and at the same time, the government is not really investing in creating new universities to allow this demand to enroll in the higher education. So we would say yes, there is still big market, especially for the private universities, because the government is going very slow to what we expect here in the country. So more and more private universities are going to create new opportunities for Brazilian students, and we forecast in the next decade that this number will be a lot higher than what it is now. You know.
Sure.
Okay, so the next slide is about where are those Brazilians that they can pay for studying in a university, in a private university. So this is research that we found on the internet, and you can see like where is black, that is the São Paulo state, is where we have the most wealth people in Brazil, and then the blue ones, the other regions in dark blue, they have other people, but not that much. And then when the blue is getting less powerful, yes, exactly. So these are the the regions that we suggest universities to start if they are thinking about doing business in Brazil or creating partnerships where we have the most wealthy people in Brazil.
I can see one of the state with the biggest rate of growth is Tocantins. And so what you're saying is you suggest that universities could open up in those regions, like Tocantins would be a good place to open up a university. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm actually saying that in the future, maybe in 10 years, Tocantins could be a place to be. So if you want to start a relationship in Brazil, maybe you could start in Tocantins now, but you will feel the results in the long term. São Paulo or other states could be different. You could, in maybe in short term, like in 5 years, you could already take some results from the partnerships that you are trying to build.
Clara, could you do us a favor? Some of the people watching us, they probably don't know the geography of Brazil. Could you just point out with the mouse where Tocantins is?
Yes, of course. Let me see. My mouse is working here.
Yeah, there we go. So people can see what we're talking about, which part of Brazil we're talking about. Okay, marvelous.
Far north of Brazil. As you guys know, we have continental size, and Brazil is a huge country, you know. And this is a very interesting question, Rafael, because the market research we have done last year, we also included the north part of Brazil, and many European universities, for instance, and universities actually from all over the world, they tend to come only to the south and the southeast of Brazil when they want to promote their educational programs. You know, pretty much they come to São Paulo, Rio, they go to Minas Gerais, they go a little bit further to the south, but they never go to the north or to the northeast. And our clients, together with us, we decided to explore a little bit of the north and the northeast of the country as well. Having said that, we also interviewed people in Recife and in Manaus that are regions from the north and the northeast. And we have identified some potential, but as Clara said, in a more medium-long term, you know, because those regions are the poorest regions of the country. However, they have been developing greatly compared to other regions as well, and very rapidly as well, you know. So there is potential there, but you see the outcomes in a medium-long term. But it's important to keep an eye on it and really look for opportunities, you know. But indeed, to start right now, we would advise to focus on those states where the map shows the dark areas, you know, the south and the southeast of the country.
Perfect. There's another very interesting factor about this chart you guys are showing, which is in Portuguese, and I think we have to, to explore this. You're saying that you're showing the number of millionaires in the country, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a. So, can you explain a little bit about why are you talking about the millionaires in Brazil, and why is this representative for any sort of foreign university, institution looking to Brazil as a potential market?
To afford studying abroad,
Sure.
we did some accountability over here, and we understood that this person needs more or less 2,000 euros per month, and to be able to pay the fee in advance, because in Brazil is really common to pay the university installments, and once you go to study abroad, you have to pay everything in advance, and you have to show that you have money to afford yourself abroad, etc. So families that can afford these, they are. I can just show my next chart for you guys. They need a higher income to be able to pay all these without problems, without needing a scholarship. So we are going to talk furthermore about Sciences Without Borders. That was a scholarship that really gave opportunities to many Brazilians to study abroad. But if we focus, we are focusing at the moment in advertising our clients to families and in schools, private schools, that people really can afford studying abroad without problems. So we think this is a better target at the moment, as Science Without Borders is on hold.
Exactly, and it's important to mention as well that this particular study we did last year was only with private schools and private universities. Why we included the public ones? For the reason that the client wants to understand the target who would be able to afford to pay the tuition fees, as Clara said. So all the data here, you're gonna hear about it and see it, and we're gonna discuss this about the private sector. We only interviewed students and educators from private institutions, from families who we knew would be able to pay the tuition fees and was the right target for our clients and for further companies that would like to invest and come to Brazil.
Itamar, can I ask you something? I
Yeah.
don't know if you have this data somewhere or if you know of top of your mind. What is the average cost of a monthly payment for the private universities in Brazil? What's the average cost?
As I said before, we have many different types of universities, in the private sector, and you can pay as much as 150 euros a month per month for your tuition fee, up to 1,200 euros a month. If you really go to top university in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. So it pretty much depends on where you go, but the tuition fee, they range from 150 to 100 euros to 1,500 2,000 euros even per month if you really go to very posh and expensive and exclusive university in the country.
Carry on, please.
I just want to complete what Itamar is saying. In the complete research that we did, we compare the universities in Brazil, how much it costs for Brazilians to study the same topic in Brazil or abroad. We have this research already done. We could share with you guys later, maybe, this information, but depends a lot on the topic as well. So, for example, we see that in Brazil, studying medicine is much more, costs much more money than study business, for example. So we did this research based on the topic that people are studying, so they can compare. It's better for them to study over here or abroad, depending how much money they can spend. Last week we went to FAUBI, that is this higher internationalization of higher education in Brazil, and we talked many Brazilian universities and European universities. And what we saw is the internationalization of higher education in Brazil is something quite new for Brazil, and we are still learning how to do it. But the different for European universities like that. Okay, the main goal of this course is to make people, for example, a business master, for example, is to make those students to understand in a big picture how is the companies at the moment and the market in their country at the moment, and how they could innovate and bring different methodologies for companies to solve contemporary and complex problems. But and then if they find a business master that does more or less the same in Brazil for European companies, they said, okay, we are similar, so our diplomas can be recognized. So I understand what you are doing, and you understand what I'm doing. But for Brazilian universities, no, they need to know in details each class students they are going to take, if this topic of the study of each class is the same, and if they have, for example, in Brazil they have a class of leadership, and in European universities they call leadership as I don't know, self-confidence or self-development. They have different names for the same thing. Brazilians, they already don't recognize this as a same course, you know? So Brazil, to internationalize a course or university, they are really looking for details, and in European they are looking more for this big picture. So I think if Brazilian universities they start doing more meetings about internationalization, this is going maybe to change. But it's because it's quite new for Brazilian universities doing this at the moment. We have those issues to deal with.
Okay.
And this is something you guys help the universities with, right?
What? I didn't get your question.
This issue is something that you guys help the universities with, in terms of talking to the communication between the universities here and there. And also to sort out these discrepancies with regards what is exactly being taught in each of the classes. Do you give any support on that?
We can also help the university as well with that. We can advise them, and depending on the relationship we build with the client, the university organization, we are able, with our contacts and with our network here in Brazil, make this bridge between the European universities and the Brazilian ones, and help them to make things happen. Definitely.